I was watching a Dunkey video recently while doing research on why I think Dark Souls is such a popular franchise, and I came across this quote.
You say, well, if I can't lose, why isn't this just a movie?
And once I heard that quote, I feel like I kind of had the theoretical answer that I was grasping at. So let's get right into it this time. Welcome to Poppy Lore, and today we're going to be analyzing, why is Dark Souls popular? There are a few moments that every Dark Souls player undoubtedly shares when they play the game. I'd say that the first moment is when they kick the ladder down to the Undead Burg bonfire from the bridge with the dragon on it. And the second is definitely the moment in the Undead Parish before the bell gargoyles, where you take the lift down and you realize that the shortcut you opened up takes you straight down into Firelink Shrine. As soon as that beautiful music started flooding in when I stepped off the lift, I realized for the first time that the game that I was playing had done something that I wasn't quite used to in video games. It designed a world that was deliberately interwoven in really clever ways. You can create shortcuts and find secret ways into other areas that never cease to amaze me. Looking out from the top of Sen's fortress and seeing the first Bell of Awakening and looking up to see Londo really makes you feel how connected the developers wanted the world to seem. Even with the other games, including Bloodborne, there are interwoven paths into different areas and shortcuts that always reward you for exploring. I haven't played a game with better world design than Dark Souls, so I feel that the quality of the design definitely lends some points to its popularity in the gaming world. My research led me to a tweet by Hidetaka Miyazaki himself, where he said that a well-designed world could tell its story in silence. After reading this tweet, I could really see many parts of the game where this philosophy comes into play. New Londo being flooded was a huge annoyance to me when I was playing the game, but after some research, it made sense that New Londo was flooded to help seal off the spread of the abyss that was present when you fought the Four Kings. Anor Londo is a city for both men and giants to live together, so it would make sense that the staircases in Anor Londo looked the way they did, with some large steps and some small steps. Miyazaki has done something completely genius with the world design of Dark Souls, and I feel that the basis of the popularity of Dark Souls' world design comes from that tweet. It was a new medium of storytelling that I call silent storytelling, trying to tell the player an incredibly intricate story with no words at all. I'm going to use another quote by Miyazaki himself to drive my argument home. I tell worlds, not stories. Odds are that if you're playing Dark Souls, then you've played video games in the past. You understand all the tropes and handholding that goes into the storytelling and tutorials. However, the way that Dark Souls handles its game conveys the message that they understand that you know how games work. You've obviously played RPGs before, so they want you to experience a game where the story isn't handed to you on a nice little silver platter. If you want to understand your actions in the world around you, then be prepared to do some serious digging and some extra quest lines. More importantly, be prepared to have your heart broken, because these NPCs and the bits of lore are so depressing it makes me want to die more so than usual. If you look at some of the games that also released alongside Dark Souls in 2011, you see games like Skyrim, and Arkham City, and The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. These three games are very similar in certain aspects to me. For instance, they follow the classic RPG formula that we have come to know and seen copied thousands of times over. Skyrim, with the world map and quest markers taking you to the exact location and holding your hand as you adventure, and giving you all the story for doing very minimal searching. Arkham City with, in my opinion, rather boring combat that doesn't have very much nuance. And lastly, and probably most importantly of these three in my opinion, is Skyward Sword's tutorial, treating you like this is the first time you've ever touched a controller or a video game in your entire life. What Dark Souls does is different. It takes those tropes and kind of does away with them. No button mashing combat, no quest markers or map, and no hand-holding tutorial that lasts for about an hour. Dark Souls expects that if you're playing Dark Souls, then you obviously want a challenge. You want an experience that will make you remember every moment because of how consistently it pushes you to your limits. This is definitely where the Dunkey quote I played at the beginning hits home for me. If games nowadays are so commonly easy to the point where many of them let you choose the difficulty, then why aren't they movies? Why aren't they like Telltale games where you really can't lose ever? Dark Souls knows that if you are faced with a tough challenge, then overcoming that tough challenge is going to make you feel so much better than the negative feelings you had going through it. I like to imagine Dark Souls as a steep mountain, and most other games as small hills. The challenges in other games is analogous to walking up that small hill. Once you get to the top, you obviously feel accomplished, but if you spend much more time trying to climb the tall mountain, and you're consistently failing and retrying, then once you get to the top of that tall mountain, the payoff is so much greater. You can see farther than if you just climbed the small hill, and most importantly, you get to stake your flag in the summit of one of the hardest action RPGs that most people can play nowadays. This is definitely the point that has the least facts or quotes to back it up, but I honestly think that this still has some credence. People like to show off their accomplishments. Dark Souls is analogous to that tall mountain that I mentioned earlier. You would obviously love to share with your gamer friends that you were able to beat that tall mountain called Dark Souls. You get to gush about how good and challenging it is, so the word spreads that it's a noteworthy challenge. Beating the game is a conversation point for many people because everybody that beat it has their own war stories to brag about of being stuck on Ornstein and Smough for weeks or mutual hatred for the bed of chaos. Word spreads about the game and its popularity rises like we have seen. That does it for this video. If you liked it, then like the video because I want you to. If you want to comment a request or criticism, then comment something. Also, I hear all the cool kids are subbing to my channel nowadays, so do that. See you next time on Populore.